Hi, this is Al Adamsen, founder and executive director of the Talent Strategy Institute. Thank you for joining us today. With me is Chris Butler, CEO of One Model. Chris, how you doing? You there?
Yes, I am, Al. I'm doing very well, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Chris is going to talk about future-proofing HR and developing a data strategy. And Chris, before we jump into your slides and your content, how did you end up founding One Model?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I'll just show the next slide because my team and I really started our careers almost a decade ago with Inform. If anyone remembers, they were really one of the first workforce analytics vendors that were around. And we had a global customer list and worked directly with those customers to really help them use their data and analytics. So as we were acquired by SuccessFactors and moved through SAP, really our work with customers, we just started to realize that they needed more out of that data set. And a lot more was possible than just looking at a singular point analytics solution that could be delivered. So we really brought this concept of One Model together for what we could bring customers, how we could manage that data, and really deliver more than just a single analytics solution could.
Right. And do I detect an accent of some sort? Where are you from originally?
Yes, I am originally Australian. The Inform company was an Australian company, and I moved to the US, to California, as part of that SuccessFactors acquisition. Got it.
And just the opportunity that you saw. I mean, what in the marketplace that attracted you to say, hey, there's a void there that needs to be filled? What was that all about?
Really, every customer we talked to, the analytics that they were getting was great, and it really enabled them to step up capabilities, but they very quickly ran into a ceiling of what they could do with it, and in order to get around that, needed more access to that data, more interaction with it, and to be able to use that more directly. So we saw that as that we really needed to unlock what was going on here, and at the same time, we could support how customers were really moving between these different data platforms and software vendors that were out there. And that's really what brought together this concept of an overall data strategy that would enable all of those pieces.
Got it. And we were both at the HR Technology Conference in Las Vegas last week, and do you want to tell everybody what you earned, what you were awarded?
Yeah, so we were one of the awesome new startups that were identified for the HR Tech Conference. It was a fairly select group of companies that were seen to be, doing new things in the space that the organizers wanted to really tell the HR Tech community about. And we were lucky enough and graced enough to be selected for that, to be able to tell our story to probably nearly 1,000 attendees that were in the room. So it really shows that the approach we're taking is different from what's out there. It can really help to enable HR, and we were ecstatic to be selected as one of those startups in this group.
And if I may say, you did an outstanding job representing One Model. It's a fantastic presentation. So, with that, you want to jump into what you want to share?
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much, Al. Okay, so what we'll take a look at today is really how we're looking at bringing a data strategy to HR, how we can unlock that data and help companies use it more. We've built, I guess, a platform and a solution around doing that, but at the same time, this is also something that you could implement yourself if you have the right people and the right knowledge available to go and do this. And I'm happy to sort of expand on anything beyond that. For the context of this conversation, we'll sort of show you how that comes together, and you can take those learnings and try and apply that yourself if you have the ability to. So I talked a little bit about our history of how we moved through those organizations. We've worked with hundreds of very large organizations over the years on how we would look at their data, how we would help them with analytics and really provide a platform for them to use that. And some of the gaps we saw are really what we're concentrating on in bringing this overall strategy together to really provide analytics and those sorts of things that come out of it. But I wanted to spend a minute or two just talking about where this started from, because really this is how the future-proofing that I threw out there comes together. And while I was at SuccessFactors and SAP, I was really sort of noodling over how we can help really facilitate this huge transition of people that are moving from on-premise platforms out into the cloud right now. And I was thinking around how you can enable that data portability to come together. And what I realized is that in order to really go from any platform, and I've chosen a couple vendors here just to show some of the common pieces that are going on, but how you can go from any platform through to another and facilitate those moves. And to do that, you really need to get a contextual understanding of that data, not only at its source, but also at its destination in order to help facilitate that movement. So I ended up coming up with some of these contextual data models, which are really not that different to how you think about some subject areas, but it allows you to really align those data sources to them and get an overall feel for what's going on. And that builds into a master concept when you start pulling your data together like that. When you do this and you can start moving it around, you almost have your data packed. It's like having your bags packed and ready to move at a moment's notice. So data portability is sort of built out of that, because what we realized and what we had come to know over the years is that really the analytics side of how you look at HR data is easy. It's quite straightforward. Most of it boils down to fairly simple math that sits on top of that data set. At the same time, visualization is also easy. And we're all doing this today. We're using Tableau, we're using Excel, and even PowerPoint to pull together information to push out to the business. What really is hard is how do you get that data to a point where you can actually deliver those pieces? That is 80 to 90% of the work that needs to be done up front in order to deliver those analytics, those visualizations. So in looking at how we do portability, if we're building sort of this contextual model, really those pieces start to flow out from that. So we decided that what we could build out of this is really a platform to start making that work around, that hard work around data start to become easy. And that when we do this, a lot of those pieces really flow out and we bring together this overall HR data strategy. So analytics, how you address planning, how you integrate applications together, and even how you start adopting new innovation and new vendors that are out there, all become almost a simple byproduct of that data strategy itself. And that was almost where the light bulb sort of clicked for us in terms of what could be delivered out of this. It really becomes a simple byproduct. So how we go about doing that, pretty simply we separate that application choice from the data itself, and we allow that to survive outside of that managing software. So it doesn't matter what vendor you have, where that data sits, we get that out and bring it together so that we can start giving it that context and that meaning that that data really deserves. And it's really across this overall context that we have here that allows the analytics and intelligence to just naturally flow as a byproduct of that. And that becomes a really powerful concept to start doing outside of that managing software, so outside of the HRIS, the ATS system, those sorts of things. And the output from that really becomes those byproducts. So how you can run analytics on a structured data set where all of these pieces know how to talk to each other becomes one of the most easiest things that you can stand on top of this data set. How you can take that data that has been cleansed and is contextual then to move it to places that need it, either to internally within the organization to either a science team or a warehouse or anything like that that needs that data, or externally out to vendors where you need to feed that data to and update, that you would normally have to rely on an IT team and expensive integrations to achieve that. Even to the point, this comes back to portability of being able to switch out a vendor and to be able to adopt new vendors as you need them. And that's really where that future-proofing and the data portability all comes to bear. Because once you have a handle on this data, those things are able to flow out. You can bring in a brand new vendor. You can adopt some of that innovation that is looking at new ways of capturing performance and information from the employee base, really bring that in and integrate that with everything else that you have around the employee their life cycle. So it does become an overall data strategy for how you look at all of this data and how you keep it in a place that you can not only use it where it is today, but expand upon and build with your own capabilities. So I will switch over and actually show you how we do that. And we use our own products for describing what a data strategy looks like and how to go about doing that, because we've created we have created a visual way of looking at it. But I will say there's elements here that you could replicate yourself, how you look at a data model for what an employee is and join multiple systems together could be built in your own organization. Now, it is not easy to do that, which is why we've built this product and what we put our knowledge and expertise into how that comes together. But it is possible, and I would be happy to talk to people if they're embarking upon that. But really what you see here is this is our command and control center. It's what an owning analyst or an admin within HR would use to manage all of that data set. Everything from our data sources and where that's coming from, through to how that data is modeled and given context, to how we extend and start to use that data, including predictors, and how we can then finally disseminate that out to the places and vendors that need that data set. So as a byproduct, really, intelligence flows from this, how we use that data and how we feed it out for integration and adoption of new technologies comes out of that. But if we take a look at our sources, this has been set up for a demo scenario where we can really connect to any of the vendors and platforms that are out there, whether it's cloud or on-premise. If it's on-premise, we have a work plan for that data that we can provide to the organization and to IT and help guide them to how that data needs to come out. For the cloud systems, we pretty much connect straight to the APIs and suck all of that data out of that API to make it available for use. And that can be done in a matter of hours, as fast as it takes for that data to come across the wire. Now, when we add all of the other vendors that you have in place, so you might have a talent management suite with performance and recruiting and learning solutions in play there, but you also need to bring in sort of external engagement surveys, benchmark data, even financial data from the business. And this is a limited scenario because you could bring any data source that is out there into the One Model platform as part of your data strategy. Now, that really needs to be given some context at that point, and that's what our data models do. We have models around all of the different subject areas of human resources to start describing those different subject areas. And the powerful part is that we can bring those multiple pieces together and essentially describe them as if they were one source. So in this scenario, we have a brand new cloud HR system, but because history is rarely migrated, we also have that legacy system as well that needs to come together to form an overall view of the entire employee population. So we can bring those together, and we can, as many sources as are required. And if you go about acquiring new companies, these can all come in as new sources and new models. And we can go about modeling those pieces to what they should look like. So these models are provided out of the box for those known source systems. So if it's a cloud or on-premise, we know what that looks like for each of those target vendors. So that's provided. But an analyst can go about even customizing those pieces or extending the model to fit what it needs to be shown as. So if we're dealing with an oil and gas company that looks at a petrotech engineering population, we can very easily go and extend the model itself and add data to what we know about an employee. Now, I've just made up that mapping as an example. But that is all dynamically run so that it can be used and forms the basis for the intelligence and the measurement framework that can sit on top. So those models really standardize that data and give a consistent measurement framework that we can stand on. So at that point, you can plug in any of your own analytics tools. You could connect with a Tableau or an Excel and use some of that structured, clean data that has been brought together and has been helped to manage that for you. But we've delivered our own analytics engine on top of this as well that can be used and delivered immediately after you have those models stood up. So we provide a measurement framework that is as basic as starting with head counts about what's going on, but digs into more advanced calculations on growth rates and spans of control, and right across commonly used segmentations of how you would look at those numbers, and really covers all of the different subject areas that you might start looking at within HR. So how do people move within the organization? How do they enter and exit what's going on? And there's quite a massive number of out-of-the-box analytics and metrics that can be delivered here against those pieces. So in this tool that we're looking at here is really an ad hoc exploration. So we can choose any of those metrics and we'll do something simple like end of period head count. And we have the full dimensionality of our data set available. So we can go and slice and dice and start using these numbers any which way we like. We can stack multiple metrics within here. We can use all of these pieces and focus on what's going on. We can even take these numbers like that we have down here and create an individual person list by going and adding something specific to those persons. So very quickly turn that into a list of people that make up those numbers. And we have a list that we can concentrate on. Now, any of these slices that we create here can be pinned out and saved to a dashboard for other users to use. So we can pin to an existing dashboard, and in this case we'll add to our head count, pin that out. And dashboards are great for giving out to people within the business. So if you have a HRBP population or even managers that you want to describe and tell a story to, we can give out these dashboards and create our own stories around that data for users in the business to start using. So this is a basic headcount dashboard that we're using here. It brings together a number of like metrics that can be used and really starts to tell the story. So we can just scroll down, and what we'll find at the bottom here is that brand new chart that we've just created. We can take that and we can start positioning and doing what we will with it in order to start telling the story that we want to tell here, and creating that dashboard itself. So I might just unsave that. But these dashboards are also interactive, that you can use them, you can drill into what's going on, we can use these charts and choose what's happening here. We can even pick any of these numbers and drill into to get more detail. So if I click on that calculation, it tells us how that's being calculated, and we can even pull back the underlying data that sits beneath that calculation itself. So there we go, we found those 7,500 people that are sitting in that head count and have pulled that into a list that we can then export and use what we need to. So there's quite a lot of capability within here. The entire dashboard can be filtered down. We could go down to those countries like we did before, or right down through the organizational unit itself to identify the individual segments that we're looking at. So if you were to just give access to these dashboards, there's a lot of capability that people would be happy with what they're doing. But we can even open that up and take any of those tiles and push that back to the explore function to start using that in a lot more granular detail. So add more of our own metrics to this, continue to slice and dice that data set for what's there and filter what's going on, and even drill into those pieces. But one of the things that I love about what we've built, and one of the things I wanted to do, was be able to create and really sandbox your own metrics on the fly for how you would use this. And this is something that's rarely available and is difficult to do unless you've really structured this data set well in the first place. So we can, as an example, go and create our own version of span of control. So let's just assume we'll do this at the leaf level. We could grab our count of individual contributors, divide by our number of managers, and pretty much create our own span of control metric here. We can give it a home within the catalog. And as soon as we save this, you can see it's now part of the catalog itself. We can start using that as part of our own calculations. So we have span of control, but that doesn't look great, so we can change up how this is formatted and start to show the differences that are going on. Now this is demo data, so it's not changing a whole lot within here, but you can very quickly build and sandbox your own metrics on the fly using all of the pieces that are within the catalog, and even creating your own metrics from the raw data that's coming across. So it is virtually infinitely expandable as to how you start using this and how you build upon the measurement framework that we deliver to really create your own strategic pieces in this data set. Now, that analytics engine is almost where a lot of people need to be and struggle to really get to, and we would consider a base level of capability for organizations. When you have a handle on your data like that, it becomes a lot easier to then move into more advanced concepts. And that's what we start to bring to bear and can really deliver a lot of thought leadership around, and in conjunction with our customers, to start extending that data set. So we provide algorithmic and even machine learning capabilities against this data set to start extending it. So quality of hire models, creating calculations of commute times that are added to what we know about the employees directly in the data set, even start to predict attrition risk calculations using machine learning. They will become augmentations that naturally flow from that data set itself, and as that data is updated, automatically go about updating those calculations against the data set itself. So it's never something that you have to go and manually run. It is something that rolls out as part of that data set and really handles that hard work of what a data science team or analytics team that is being in depth with the data and takes it off of their shoulders and into one model and the data strategy itself. So as an example, we've mocked out the attrition risk in this demo site. We have released this to customers now and that have started using it. And it's pretty interesting that with one of the first customers we rolled this out with, we pretty much identified $6 million worth of high-performing employees that were at risk of leaving. And that was a massive win for those guys to not only start looking at their data in a way they haven't done before, but then to start showing an immediate path to ROI by concentrating on something that was a very big problem for them around attrition. So we were able to immediately pull out those people that were at quite a high risk of leaving for them to start drilling into. Oops, I'll pick something easy to click on. And really identify those people that they could put retention strategies in place for. And that was a very quick timeline to get them to that point. We had all of their data stood up inside of a week, and a couple of weeks later, we'd rolled out attrition risk to them that they could start using. So in the space of 3 weeks, we'd taken them from a zero capability right out to the ability to start looking at predictive attrition risk here. And that was a massive change for them and how they ran as an organization. So ultimately, one of the other byproducts that comes out of this is, we've cleaned up this data set. We have this managed data infrastructure that is running on all of this data and bringing it together. Analytics flows out, how you extend that data flows out, but also the ability to really send that data off to places that need it, to integrate it externally, and to bring new data in becomes one of those byproducts that is, it's almost been impossible for HR to run themselves in the past. And we can create these feeds of data that can go out to anywhere that really needs access to it in order to feed those vendors and those processes with that data set. And this is something that we provide templated outputs for, so you can feed that off to a vendor. If there's a partner vendor that we're working with, we can create those pieces so that customers can just turn those on. But you can create your own data feeds to get this data out to anywhere that needs it. So we are completely open as to how you use that. Really what we're here to do is to provide that framework for how you manage that data, how you work with it, and really unlock those pieces that have been kept in almost a closed system by the HR technology and vendors that are in place now. So that destinations becomes that very important aspect of how you can open that up and move that data around while keeping a central hold on this data itself. So guys, that's been quite a quick overview of how we go about delivering a data strategy to our customers. And like I said, it is possible to be done. This is almost the perfect implementation of a data warehouse that is specific for human resources and how you would go about using that. So we're quite open to talking to people, because we know that really the hard part and the experience and expertise is hard one in how this comes together. So we're here to help HR on how they use that data and do what we can with and expand what we know about this data set.
Chris, that's outstanding. Hey, I have a question, and if you don't mind me interjecting real quick, and it might actually relate to this slide that you're putting up, is many organizations have an ecosystem of technology throughout the employee life cycle. They also have a maybe data warehouse or BI environment, and they might have a enterprise reporting tool like a Tableau or ClickView lying around. How do you play in that whole mix? I mean, what's your ultimate value proposition?
The ultimate value proposition is we really bring all of that together and provide that strategy across all of those pieces. So our job is to not restrict your choices in how you use that data, but to really open that up. So we know that you have specific data warehouses that you've built for purposes that customers want to use Tableau, they want to use Click and even Excel and those pieces. Our job is to really make that possible by managing this data well in the first place and opening it so that you can continue to use those pieces as you wish. So you can plug in a Tableau, you can feed data to those places that need it. We are an open system for that really enables that to happen. We do provide our own tool set because we have a huge background in workforce analytics and how you use that data, and we want to open up immediate access that can be given out to people that need access to that data. But for us, it's not closing the ecosystem down. It's really how we can open it up, how we can work with our customers, and how we can work with the vendors out there to really create an overall HR ecosystem that uses that data set.
Got it. And having been in the space a while, both of us have, we've come across this concept of an HRIT, human resource information technology strategy and roadmap and all that. But by the slide that you have up now, are you suggesting that there be a data strategy or measurement strategy that precedes that or works in conjunction with that? Can you add some color to that concept?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when most people look at HR technology out there now, they're focused on what these vendors are delivering for how you would use those workflows or processes. And we almost say that that's great. You need to choose the application that will best fit those processes and workflows for how you're going to run your business. But you need that overarching data strategy that will support those application choices and enable you to really open that up and not necessarily be withheld to a single vendor, that you can be flexible and you can choose the pieces that you need to support what you need to at any given time. So that's exactly what's going on there, Ralph.
Got it. And a question just came in. A a data strategy, is that something that you help with during implementation or on an ongoing basis, or is it something that you would expect a client to do before they would engage with you?
No, we essentially provide that data strategy out. Those models, and if I switch back, of what we're delivering here, really provide that guidance on how you would look at the different subject areas, how you would consider an employee and the data that's held against them, how you look at performance and requisitions within recruiting. We provide those pieces, but they are flexible so that you can extend them to meet the needs of your business. So we would enable you and your organization to really stand up that data strategy and then help you to extend to fit the needs of the business itself. So our whole frame and method of ongoing support is about enabling the business to really take this strategy that we're helping deliver, to extend it, to make it your own, and make it an ongoing living organism that supports everything else that you're doing within human resources and even externally to the business that needs that data.
Got it. And so there's two questions that are here, and I'm going to choose this one that I think relates to what you just shared. So BI has been around for a long time, and there are many BI tools that are in organizations right now. How, and as someone might be looking here and asking this question, might see business intelligence in what you're producing. How do you fit if someone has a SAP HANA, for example? How would you play with that solution?
Yeah, sure. So we can both consume data from those sources and feed that data back out. So what we do with this data is quite specific in how you would look at it and how you interpret it. And that's very challenging to go and build yourself. I've seen many large organizations try and do that and come back years later and look for something because they just haven't been able to get there. The HR data set is very complex in nature. I mean, this is people we're talking about. It's one of the most complex data sets out there. So how you understand that data is, we provide some of that guidance, but we can fit into all of those business intelligence tools that you're using today, and really provide that overarching sequence. So, at the core of what we're doing, it's not much different to what's delivered in business intelligence, but it's very hard to achieve for the outcomes that are coming out of this. And that's really how we differ from BI. Instead of a go and do this yourself and trial and error for the next few years, we really take our experience and deploy that out to you and help you with those aspects.
Okay, and this is my own question. Is there an and proposition in there? Meaning one model and something like Oracle, OBIE, or HANA?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So being able to source and then to destinate out to those places that need it absolutely makes us complementary to all of those pieces. We can get all of this HR data in, we can work with it and extend it to create those calculations that would be extremely difficult to do anywhere else, and then feed that out to those business intelligence platforms where you may already be distributing data to a much larger audience. So you can do more within here and then support those external applications any way that you wish.
Got it. And I'm going to read this question verbatim. Is your tool for HR business partners, HR analysts, or both?
It is for both. What we would typically see is this data screen that you see here would be used by maybe 2 or 3 people in the organization. So an HR analyst, an HR admin that would oversee this data set itself. And what you would give out to HR BPs would probably be aligned more with the dashboarding and the measurement framework. Those sorts of pieces where they need access to that data, they're perfect for giving out to HR BPs and even managers out within the business itself.
Got it. Well, any closing comments that you'd like to make as we start to wrap up?
I guess coming back, what we do see is that application strategy is not a data strategy. So when we see people looking at suites, because they think they're getting a data strategy, we know that that's not necessarily the case when you look at it. They just don't perform the way that their data needs to perform, and to even go about for how you use that data in the future and bring more applications on, it just doesn't fit. So advice is to go for that data strategy to start with, to capture everything, and choose those applications that really fit how you want to run your business itself to do that. And really in that, you've got to choose your data first to be able to do that. Then you can choose any other applications that fit in and expand outside of that for what lives outside. So be able to choose the innovation that's out there